Wir sagen von Herzen Danke. Danke für über 700.000 begeisterte Kunden. Danke für Ihr Vertrauen seit über 40 Jahren. Lassen auch Sie sich persönlich und individuell beraten in Ihrem Küchenquelle-Studio Düsseldorf. Feiern Sie mit uns und wir schenken Ihnen 40% auf Ihre Traumküche. Alle Infos auf küchenquelle.de. Küchenquelle. Wir gestalten zu Hause.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this conversation about your Kundalini awakening experiences, or equation. My name is Chrism, and I would like to welcome you and others to this conversation. So thank you for joining us, everyone in the chat room. Hello. Everyone who's calling in, hello, and everybody who's accessing this program from the archives, the future people, and those who are accessing it right now from their smartphones and their computer laptops and towers. So thank you for checking in with us. I just got back from South America yesterday. I spent about 32 hours in airports and on airplanes, and it can be really a challenge to do that. Of course, when you try to fly the most inexpensive way, well, then you're gonna pay in other ways. So that's what happened to me, I think, is I paid in other ways. I went from San Francisco to New York, and then New York to Sao Paulo, and then Sao Paulo to Brasilia, and then I took a 2-hour cab ride from Brasilia to Abidjan. I really want to offer my apologies to everybody who tuned in last week, and I was trying desperately to get it hooked up so that I could do the live broadcast from Abidjan, but I just did not have the technology, i.e. my hotel did not have a steady enough Wi-Fi signal for me to really be able to do it at all, and so I apologize to everybody for that. But I'm going to try to I want to say a great thank you to Amelia Santara and Brooke Robertson for giving their experiences and understandings with regard to working with the John of God situation. And I really want to say thank you to both of them for stepping in as we all were kind of tempting in and trying to get it going. Sorry it didn't happen. I thought we were so close. So close. This didn't happen. Anyway. So maybe a little bit of that can happen today. So one of the first things that I want you to understand is when you go down South America, first of all, it's a very different lifestyle. It's a very different. The continental differences are profound. I mean, you can the plants down there, the animals down there, everything in the Amazon or the Brazil, even the Mato Grosso of Brazil is extremely large. There's a lot of life down there. It's still. Some of the areas are still kind of Pleistocene-ish, where you have large insects and large birds and large things that can have the capacity to feed themselves through the forms that are available for them. And so it's very interesting to be down there. But however, before I get to how it felt to be within the radiance of Abidjan, I'm going to go over here to Indra from Toronto. And hello, Indra. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Chrism?
I'm doing well. Thank you. And
good.
Do you have a question for our audience?
I have a question, yes. The last time I called in, we spoke about, I asked about Samadhi and bliss. I was having bliss for a few weeks. I just want to sort of give you an update. I'm
just a minute, and I'm going to try it again here. That was
Go
very
ahead.
interesting. From the top, my dear.
You know what? I can't hear you. Breaking up.
Really?
Yes.
Got a clear signal here. Go ahead and ask your question if you can.
Okay. My question is, so I am still in a state of bliss. This is what it feels like. It feels like I can feel all my chakras spinning. But what it feels like is it's going through me, and it's almost like it's one wheel. I feel like there's a merge. Is that normal to you? Did I describe something?
Yeah. The chakras, even though they have their own frequency of spin, when the Kundalini enters into the chakra matrix, it begins to align the sensitivities and the expressions of the chakra in a harmonic balance, and you will feel it as if there is one big controlling chakra managing all the
Oh my God! So it is normal.
Oh yeah, honey, it's fine. No worries.
Okay, so another thing. When I first had my my full blown, the energy of course came in like a freight train, and what I'm experiencing now is like somebody oiled that freight train.
Yeah, did the freight train need to be oiled?
I think it did. Seriously, it did.
Was it squeaking? Well,
I can feel it. The energy is big. It's huge, but it's not. I know it's there. I know it's strong. I know it's powerful. It feels less, but it feels like somebody oiled that freight train.
Okay. And I want to thank Centaura for taking a moment there to see if we're reaching the people in the chat room too. Thank you, Centaura. Yeah, the oil for the freight train would really be your practice, your acceptance, your lack of resistance, and that would really be. You could almost count that as the oil that would be helping the freight train run smoother.
Right.
So yeah, that's good. That's good.
So of course, it's comforting to hear it's normal because I noticed this for like about a week now, where it felt like one wheel.
You are right on target, my dear. Right on target. No worries at all.
Okay, I don't know if you can answer this question, but I'll still ask it. At that point, where am I?
At what point?
At the one wheel, the feeling of the one wheel, everything's integrating. Where can you tell me, where am I in my?
Right.
If you can.
Well, you're looking for a linear. You're looking for a linear placement within a non-linear matrix.
I know, but okay.
It's kind of like swimming in a lake and asking where you are within the water molecules of the lake.
Right. I got that, but I wanted to ask anyways. By the way, I did. Go ahead.
You are proceeding along the lines of where she wants you to be right now, and you're actually humming along quite fine based upon your questions.
Right. Okay. So, I did visit that temple you suggested I go to at the Pickering Mandir just on the outskirts of Toronto.
Okay.
So I went in 2 Sundays in a row, and I sat and I looked around because I remember you telling me it had a really good Kundalini feel. So I did go, and I love it.
Yeah. It's a very Kundalini-oriented place outside of the dogma.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Outside of the dogma, the architecture, the way the rooms are set up, the statuary, it's very conducive to Kundalini. As I recall, they had colored lights going through it too, which was very nice as well.
Do.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. Very beautiful.
Yes, it's
very beautiful. Glad you were able.
So I did go.
Good. Well, it seems to me, Indra, that you're really cooking with gas, as they say in the Midwest.
Right.
You are, you've got a very, very steady, you've got a very, very dynamic process that you're experiencing right now. This is great. Keep it going. Keep up the practice that you're doing. Okay.
Thank you. I do try my best, and you know what? There is firsthand, where can I run? I can't run, so I have to surrender.
That's right.
And I
wish more people had that realization. You can't run from that which is within you.
No, there's no way to run. And I know I did run in the beginning, and I know where it got me. It got me nowhere. So here I am.
Here you are. And here the Kundalini is within you. So it's all good, my dear. All good.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for calling in.
Yes, I'm going to listen to the rest of the show.
Okay, I'm going to put you in the blue then. Here you go.
Okay, thanks.
And just for anybody that was listening to that was Inara, the giant German Shepherd dropping something on the floor. So we will just have to kind of deal with her. And anyway, so yeah, I'd like to thank Indra for her question. It's a very good question. And the statement that she made with regards to there's nowhere to run. You cannot run away from Kundalini. You just can't do it. It's within you. It's got an agenda with what you have going on inside you. There's no way that you're going to be able to run away from it or to ignore it or any of the escapist attitudes that we learn to operate with so well in our society. Yeah, it's a very different scenario here. Now let's see. No one here just now, huh? Okay, all right. We've got some telephone activity over here that you guys can't see, but I'm responding to it. And good. Okay. So back to Abidjanya. So Abidjanya is a place where the great healer of Brazil, John of God, resides, and this is where he has his healing center. My first experience with John of God goes back to 2001, 2002, and where I was on a lark. I had a physical situation that I could have taken care of in the United States. It wouldn't have been a problem. I could do it, but I decided to give him a try. And I went down to Brazil, and I had all the pain medications I needed. I had everything I needed to be able to manage this situation if he failed. Well, he didn't fail. He didn't fail at all. Matter of fact, his healing was given, and the whole healing itself lasted about 20 seconds. And after that, the healing itself lasted 7 years. 7 years. And so I went back subsequently the next year, and the next year I went back and did some levels of charitable service down there. And, this place and these entities down there, you kind of know my feelings about that, but they're a little miffed at me. So they were a little miffed at me when I went down to visit them this time, because I've been given away a secret that they wanted to stay secret. And so I'm not going to pounce on a truth that all it will do is initiate levels of fear in people that don't understand. But so I'm not going to do that. I'm gonna not all truths need to be known by everyone. And so I just want to say that in this case, these are very, very beneficial, very good entities, and they practice a level of the Kundalini awakening safety protocols. They're the closest ones that I've come across in this world that are that close to the safety protocols that the Kundalini in me, downloaded for me to write of, for the benefit of Kundalini awakening people. And so these spiritual entities have the ability to initiate a Kundalini response in a person. So when you get there, your Kundalini immediately jumps in a provocative movement towards greater expression and greater expansion. And I definitely felt that as soon as I got out of the taxi. Wow, there it was, boom. hitting you from the lower torso all the way up to the top of my head. It was a very, very, very provocative feeling, definitely unmistakable. And this is what you run into immediately. Now, with even getting to John of God, if it's your first trip down there, I mean, you definitely want to have a guide to go down there, because the airports, it's not so much the country itself, but it's the airports. You know, you've got to go, if you fly in from the East Coast United States, you know, you say you're going to fly in from Kennedy. Well, you go from Kennedy, and then you go to Sao Paulo. All the planes land in Sao Paulo. And then you've got to figure out how to get to the national airport at the Sao Paulo airport and take that national flight. And then, of course, your hotel will pick you up at the Brasilia airport, you know, when you land. And so that's easy enough. That's easy enough to do. But you know, you got to remember, hardly anybody speaks English down there. It's all Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese. And so even though there are some similarities within that language, like no is nao, or is now, N-A-O is no. And, you know, they pronounce it now. And, you know, some of the other words are vaguely familiar. But it's very, very, very complex to some degree. You don't want to miss your flight. You don't want to be stranded in a country that doesn't understand your words. And so, yeah, you definitely do want to have some sort of guidance as you come down there. So, of course, you speak the language, or you've been down there before. You know how to handle yourself in an airport. When you get to the little village of Abagiana, it's bisected by a highway. And as you're facing west, the south side of the highway is a normal South American Brazilian village. You know, they've got paved streets, and they've got street lights, and they've got stores and things of that nature. But on the left side is the normal village. On the right side is the part of the town that is pretty much controlled by what the Brazilians like to call La Entidade. So that's the word that they like to use. Entidade, which means the entity in Brazilian Portuguese. And it really does. It really does have a level of control that is significant. Amelia, I'm going to have you step in here. I got to put these girls out back here. Anara is eating everything. Come here, girls. Come here. Yeah.
Oh, okay, Chrism. I was doing something totally different. So this is me tap dancing. So I don't want to speak about myself and my experience there. I want to wait until Chrism comes back. So what I'm going to do is give you the addresses you can go to if you would like to make a donation to support the work that Chrism does. You know, donations are necessary. Donations are very, very welcomed. So I have two websites that you can go to. You can go to www.kundalinisafeties.com, which is a wonderful site, and also www.chrism-kundalini.blogspot.com, and you'll see a donate button there. And please, if you're in a position to donate, feel free. All donations are welcome. Very small donations are most welcome too. So do feel free to do that if you're in a position to do so. Are you back, Chrism?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thanks for making that announcement. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So, I mean, I didn't just along the lines of the donation. I could not afford my ticket to go down there. The person that wanted me to go down, he had to pay my ticket down there. So I just want you to know that I'm not rolling in so much money that I can just hop, skip, and down to Brazil and back. Not that I would even want to, but I did.
Actually,
and,
Chrism,
yeah.
Can I interrupt just seeing as you're talking about traveling, and can I just tell the listeners that you will be coming to Europe? this year. And it's not that you've loads of money and you're flying over to Europe. It's going to be organized by Manisha. Lots of you will know Manisha on Facebook. And Manisha is currently inviting people to consider coming to Berlin next September. And she is inviting people to give their deposits now, because as you all know, the further out from a date that you get your ticket, the better value you can have. So if if you're living in mainland Europe or the UK or Ireland, these places in particular, seriously consider coming to Berlin next year, or at least in September. And if you're going to come, maybe contact Manisha and talk to her about paying your deposit so that we can get Chrism the best value flight possible.
Oh,
thanks a million, Chrism.
Thank you. Oh, it's so hard.
You could do without listening.
You're like in a fetal position the whole way, and you're holding your urine and whatever else you may need to hold, and
you could
so
do without hearing that you're doing another long haul later this year. Bad timing for you, but
the European flights are a lot easier because
they are, of course.
Well, they are just easier. Like the Germany flight was very good, except on the return where you land in Chicago and they put you through a bunch of things. And with Trump as president, things are kind of changing at the airports as well. Anyway, so
okay.
So as you land, and thank you, Centara, thank you, Amelia Centara, for stepping in while I took care of these girls. And so as you're in Abidjan, you immediately fall under the influence of La Entidade. And La Entidade is very, very, very much a Kundalini-oriented place. Seriously. If you look up on the internet and you look up Saint Ignatius of Loyola and you read about Saint Ignatius of Loyola, you will definitely see a Kundalini signature about everything that happened to him. And this is the patron entity that João Teixeira de Faria, the gentleman that harbors Saint Ignatius, and a guy named Dr. Augusto, who is doing most of the work right now. Definitely a Kundalini scenario. And Saint Ignatius lived in the 15th century Spain, and he was kind of brought up in a well-to-do family, and he went to work for a duke, and he decided that he was going to become a military man, and so he became a military man, and he became very good at his weapon, which was sword, and he would hear somebody challenge the divinity of Christ, like an Islamic person would come up and challenge the divinity of Christ, and St. Ignatius would just kind of run him through the sword after challenging him to a duel. And quite a few people, he killed quite a few people in this manner. And he also killed quite a few people just doing the regular type of soldiering work that he was doing for the Duke that he worked for. And in one of the battles in like a mid-15th century, a cannon was fired, and the rubble that it ejected upon him really gave him some nasty breaks in his legs, and his military career was immediately finished. He had no military career after that, and with that in mind, he didn't really have an opportunity to do what he wanted to do as far as his career path and the whole bit. He wasn't really able to do that, and so he started reading some biblical things. Like in the hospitals back then, the reading material that you had at your disposal was basically biblical verses, and he started reading some biblical verses, and it became very attracted to that, and so he. This led to him wanting to convert to to a a religious lifestyle, and that's what he did. And so he started to live off of charity, and he started to do charitable actions. He would help at the hospitals. He would help injured people. He would really go out of his way to do this. And at the same time that he's helping, he's living in a cave somewhere in Spain, and he's living in a cave, and he's meditating 5 hours a day, praying and meditating 5 hours every day. Well, he starts to have waking visions. He starts to have visions that put him into levels of bliss. And if you look at some of the paintings of St. Ignatius, you see him, he always has tears of bliss streaming down his face. But if you don't know what bliss is, you just think he's crying. But these are adoration. This is adoration. And he really, really became quite a significant character within this era of Catholicism in Spain. And Spain was still quite the worldly power at that time. I mean, Spain was conquering much of South America, conquering much of North America, having wars with England and France, and et cetera, and so forth. And so with St. Ignatius, when he passed, he had quite a bit of karma to deal with. And one of the ways that he has dealt with that karma is by continuing to give of service in an enlightened format as an entity that began with João Teixeira de Faria, the healings that occur at Casa de Dominacio in Abidjan, Brazil. And so he and other people that had similar karma and that want to eradicate some of that karma or balance some of that karma, well, they're given opportunities to do just that. And Dr. Gusto is another one who wanted to continue to give to humanity. And as we look at Dr. Gusto and St. Ignatius of Loyola, we see spiritual consciousness reaching into the physical dimension from a non-physical dimension in order to initiate levels of help and service and charitable acts of healing. And this is what they say down there. You're not charged a dime for anything. Now, you will be charged for your hotel room, your hotel room, and you're definitely charged for your food. You can also be charged for the medicine, but if you don't have the money to purchase the medicine, they'll just give it to you. And I tested that one out myself in 2002, just to see if they would actually do it. And I wound up donating money to Casa anyway because they did do it. And so it's, there's a very strong level of self-service, charitable actions, and a strong dynamic of parapsychological experiences that a person can have down there. Because we're dealing with heightened levels of Kundalini expression within people that do not understand or realize what Kundalini is, it can be absolutely fascinating to the people watching a person get cut on while they're standing up without any surgical gown, without anything, just lift up your shirt, we're going to slice into you. And, oh, by the way, we do a 7-inch surgical incision to your abdomen and your leg. And I mean, talk all the way in. A tumor can be grasped by a person's hand, pulled out of you, and then you're sewn back up, and you've spilled about 8 drops of blood. This is the type of phenomena that is fairly consistent at the Casa de Dominacio. It sure was back in the early 2000s. And even though I was really interested in watching the live demonstrations, which he still does, guys getting their eyes scraped with what looks to be the best thing, like a serrated, rusty steak knife. And people having a pair of forceps kind of jammed up their nose and having those forelips turned. Those are fairly common. The fairly common of indications of what happens down there at the Casa de Dominatio. But most of the time, people choose an invisible surgery. This is what I chose. And it was very, very effective, as I mentioned earlier. It lasted quite a while, too. Now, sometimes they don't last forever, but they give you just enough time where you can either get the funds you needed to get in order to do the work on a more permanent level, or it is a permanent healing. Definitely a permanent healing. They have a sacred waterfall down there, which they call a cachoeira. Cachoeira is waterfall in Brazilian Portuguese. And it's a very beautiful area of the Mato Grosso. And I'll be posting some videos of it so that you can see it. It's very beautiful. It's very expansive. It just goes on and on and on. The Mato Grosso is bigger than most countries. It is a huge expanse. Brazil itself is a huge country, easily bigger than the United States. I'm fairly certain, although I don't have that as a fact. The very first night I spent there, there was a huge level of Kundalini spiking going on with me there. A huge level of spiking the Kundalini, and it was really, really powerful. They spiked it, and then they'll take a little bit of it, and as they take a little bit of it, you know that they're using that for healing, and I was more than happy to partake of that. Now Cole is saying that it's a little choppy there. Is that right? Can everybody hear me okay? I'm just going to wait. Anybody in the chat room able to hear it okay? Oh, it's better now. Okay. So when you go into and you first thing he had me do was sit in the cleaning room, and they have it separated in two different rooms. They have the cleaning room where entities and issues of an egoic nature or selfish nature or evil nature are cleaned away from you by the entidade. And there's more than just two. There's more than just Dr. Augusto and St. Francis, or I'm sorry, St. Ignatius of Loyola. There's a lot more. They just don't attach names to themselves. Anyway, you get that cleaned off, and then you go into the current room, which is where the Dr. Augusto or St. Ignatius of Loyola, when they're inside of João Teixeira de Faria, you can kind of feel the level of Kundalini expression that their presence within him actuates with his Kundalini. And I have had these entities come into me. I've what they called embodied Dr. Augusto. He took over half of my body back in 2001, and in 2002, the whole group of them took over another half as I was sleeping overnight in a room where that, where the permission was given for that to occur. They don't just invade you. They're not invasive entities. These are not the kind of entities that I tell people not to participate with, such as the Kundalini corrupting entities. These are entities that ask permission, and they do a very specific work, and then they leave, unless, of course, you want to continue to do that work, and then they will stay. The reason why I was coming down there is because Vincent, who has been on this program more than a few times, his Kundalini suggested that he come down to Abadiânia. His Kundalini. He didn't know who this guy was, but his Kundalini put it right into his head. John of God, Abadiânia, Brazil. And so, we made the arrangements to come down, and he has been coming down, and he's been having a fairly, good level of success with the entities. Now, they're still controlling him to some degree, but what the entity down there in Abadiânia said is that you need to stay here for a good 6 months, because part of what Vincent has is a karmic scenario, a karmic balancing that includes invasive entities, and so this can be very difficult. They're not allowed to just remove a karma. A karma has to be earned. The removal has to be earned, and that's very important for people to understand. A lot of different karmas can come into it. You just don't get away from it. You don't get away from it. And these entities, the types of entities that Vincent has, are definitely of a karmic nature. But the entity down there, Lanchadaje, did say that he could help him. And so that's what I believe is the current plan for Vincent, is to live for 6 months to a year in Abidjan and do his work from a computer terminal there in South America. And we'll see how that works with him. But that is the reason we went down. And we definitely did see some positive results while down there. So if you have any questions about this at all, please feel free to write. Or if you'd like to call in, the call-in number is area code 347-934-0026. As I mentioned before, I'll be putting some YouTube videos together about this trip, and with many different visuals of the casa and the surrounding area, and what it's like to live in that tiny little town that's on the way to two major cities, Brasilia and Goiânia. Yes, Santara.
I have two questions, Chrism, that were sent in for last week. Will I read them in relation to
Sure.
John of God?
Sure.
Yeah, so Joe said on the group how many years ago, when she was reading about Joe de Deus, John of God, she was brought to her knees in tears of love and gratitude, and she would really love to know how it feels to be there. What does that actually feel like? And the other question was, it's about the entity extraction. Once you have completely extracted all entities, is it possible that the place extracted will need another cleansing, or how long can it stay clean? Thank you.
Okay, I'll take the last one first. When the entities are extracted out of a person, there's basically a level of free will that is inserted into the equation. When these kinds of entities come into a person, one of the first things they take away is your free will. The free will meaning that you ask them to leave, well, they don't leave. You ask them to be quiet, well, they don't be quiet. They insidiously keep trying to corrupt and to torture you through yelling at you, screaming at you, trying to talk you into committing suicide, telling you to do any and all various unethical, immoral actions. And it's a pretty constant 24/7 level of forced programming that is being pushed at the person. And so when these entities go away, well, that goes away. And that leaves a pretty strong level of silence and freedom within the individual. And it feels very, very, very profound. The other question is, how does it feel to be there? Well, there are levels of adoration that can occur. When I was walking up to John of God the second time, it was on the Wednesday of the following week after I'd been there a few days. I walked up there. My Kundalini went into immediate levels of bliss. Strong, strong, strong levels of bliss. I was really asking it to back it down so that I could actually communicate with John of God, which I was like 5 people were ahead of me before it was my turn to be in front of him. And, so she finally did back off, and I was able to ask my question and experience his response. But it's not so much being, for me at least, it wasn't so much being in his presence. It was more so being in a room where everybody's meditating very strongly, very quietly, with eyes closed, and their Kundalini, little portions of their Kundalini is being made tangible, and so your Kundalini will respond to levels of itself being, expanded through the Lanchadaje, through the other people, and being present in the room. So you're literally walking through a cloud or a fog of Kundalini awakened energy. And boy, you can certainly feel that. And that is enough to bring you to your knees in tears, for sure. So I hope I answered those questions adequately. When you're there, you really don't have anything else to do besides pray and meditate and converse with other people that are there. And so, most of my time was taken up in prayer and meditation. And Vincent and I would go to the center, and we'd find a chair or a seat, and I would have Vincent lay down on the stage where most of the healings are being done, or I'd have him do a triangle for other people, because one of the catechisms of healing is that you get a stronger healing if you try to give healings to other people. So if you try to reach out and better the life of another person, well, then that is also going to be reflected in the level of healing that you receive from La Entidad there in Abadiania. And so we would put our, they have triangles there, which is definitely a Kundalini symbol of Trinity. The two lower corners of the triangle would be sacred male, sacred female, and then the upper point would be God or divinity. And of course, you could also say that it's a male triangle with the point on top, and then you can flip that triangle so that the point is down, and that's the feminine triangle. And so there are many different ways to see this. They sell the triangles there that you can bring home and put in your house. I got a few, and it works. It works when you put your head into the center of that triangle. You can actually feel yourself you can feel an energetic current crackling around your face as you put your head into that wall, with that the triangle is on. Very provocative, very pronounced. I was very happy to be there. I didn't see any poisonous snakes, but I did see a really rare blue butterfly, which was very beautiful. When we went down to the sacred waterfall. It was amazing. It was amazing there. And they have little monkeys down there that are very small, maybe about 8-9 inches tall, maybe a little bit taller. And they just kind of inquisitively look at you, and they make little hoo-hoo-hoo sounds, and they're very, very shy. It was a very, very, very wonderful trip, and I'm very glad I made it. And I recommend it to people. Rachel Burnett is saying on the chat room here that she had a realization last week about Jesus' teaching Kundalini, and cried like a baby, and totally Jesus taught Kundalini. Jesus actually taught Kundalini because he had it. He had it to teach, and and this is where we understand that the kingdom of heaven is truly within. It's just not within the way people think it is. It's actually an energetic form that is the precursor to Kundalini awakening. When that Kundalini awakens, well, you go right into the divine. You go right into the divine. And so, very, very, very profound, very, very profound and provocative place to go down to. And if you're living in the United States or Europe right now, there's a lot of turmoil in both the North American continent and also in the European continent. And when you come down there to Abadiania, it all just kind of gets left behind. You don't really have the ability or the inclination to follow the news of Donald Trump or Angela Merkel or any of these other people. And you just kind of you're there for a very, very specific holy purpose. And it's really good. It's really good. And Rachel Burnett continues. She says, it's so sad how the Christian church hides the truth, keeps people from truly experiencing the full presence of God. Well, yes, indeed, Rachel Burnett. Can you imagine how this world would be different if Kundalini awakening was a normal part of the human expression on this world? What a beautiful world, this could be. Absolutely. Anyway, this is kind of in a quick nutshell. That's what occurred for me in Abadiania, and it's a very beautiful place. It's about 4,000 feet. So if you live at sea level, you'll be huffing and puffing for a little bit. But really, there's nothing else to do. And the one thing that they do want to make clear to people is that you don't go to Abidjania as a tourist. They like to see themselves as a really large, spread out hospital with all the different hotels and homes as rooms in the hospital. They don't recommend that you go to Goiânia or Cristalina or any of these other neighboring towns because they don't following you over there is just taking them away from the work that they need to do there in Abidjania. And so, yeah, this is, now I know there's a lot of medical tourism like I was when I first came down in 2002. I was definitely medical tourist, right? Testing out a different way of healing. And when Dr. Augusto embodied within me, I was given the knowledge from his presence that this is how things used to be. It wasn't always along the lines of the American Medical Association. This is how, in eons gone by, that people would receive very specific healings. And the Greeks knew this too. They had the healing center at Asclepion, and they had these other healing centers where you would go to sleep, and an entity would come to you and give you advice on what you needed to do to get rid of the ailment that you had. You'd receive that as a dream download at night, and then the priests and you would come together and try to initiate that healing. And so this is really only this is really only a weirdness when it comes to modern Western standards of medical conduct. They don't like the competition, from natural healing methods such as, naturopathy or any of the ways and means that people would have reached into medical healing, from a natural level. As a matter of fact, in the United States, it's fairly illegal to do those types of things. The only person that can call themselves a health practitioner is those that ascribes to the American Medical Association. And the same thing is going on pretty much in Europe and Australia as well. Africa and Asia are a little different. But, it's still kind of a world that is being dominated by a few who see themselves as the end all and be all of medical-based healing. But as Rachel commented, people will come to Jesus. Jesus was able to initiate healing. He's able to help a blind man see, able to resuscitate a person, say probably from a near-death experience into out of that and into a fully living expression. And this is all within the realm of Kundalini. Kundalini does these works. And Jesus could have said it, when he said, these things I do are of the Father. Well, you could have just as easily said, these things I do are of the Kundalini, of the divine within me, expressing through me for a very specific intent and purpose with regards to giving a person another chance at healing. And this goes back to, pre-deluge days. I mean, this, before the Christians even existed. This goes back all the way back into the areas of Ahura Mazda, Zoroastrianism, the Sumerians, and these really, these civilizations that existed, 10, 12,000 years ago. They had a very different take on what it took to heal a person. And when I was standing up on stage with Dr. Augusto inhabiting the left side of my body, I was given downloads on what to say, and they put it on film. I think I could probably find the film here and see if I can put it on a disc and then upload it to the YouTube channel. But this is how it used to be done. Or they would also do it with ayahuasca. They would do it with some of the entheogens that were available to any of the medicine people at the time. Ayahuasca would be available. Chacruna would be available. The Syrian rue would be available. All the different kinds of ways and means that we would use to access higher levels of spiritual knowledge would be utilized in order to perform a set level or protocol of healing upon an individual. And so this place down here in Abidjan, South America, is just one of those places. It's like the Asclepion healing of Greece and some of the other places where healings are given. Trying to think of one. Lourdes in France is another healing place that has to do directly with Kundalini. Medjugorje is turning into that. Now, I'm not buying into the visions of the Virgin Mary so much. When I went to Medjugorje, I got a real feeling of, this is kind of like an arranged scenario to bring the Catholic faith into a specific place and to be a center of higher spirituality than what the Balkan wars of the 90s, of the early 90s and late 80s were suggesting. And so kind of a counterbalance to the horrible atrocities that took place in Bosnia and Serbia and Croatia and some of the other countries in that area. I didn't get a real feeling of divinity like I do at John of Gods or like I did at Lourdes. So just saying that, maybe somebody else has a different experience with it. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions with Her Holiness Miss Santara. Put you in the red, my dear.
I'm in the red, Chrism. Thank you. Okay, so the first question, actually, I will go straight to. It's a question on ayahuasca. And the lovely lady who asked this might actually be in the chat room there. So she says, I feel led to do an ayahuasca ceremony. I have the plant. My partner and I are both light workers. I feel led to do my own ceremony. Kundalini has even given me the chance to use. Can I have a device from Chrism, please?
A device?
No, can I have advice? Advice.
Oh. Well, I take it the person hasn't done this yet, right?
No, the person hasn't done this yet. Keep an eye on the chat room there in case the person is there and adds to it. They haven't done it yet. They have the plant and they're asking, what do you think? Kundalini gave her own chance.
Well, I did that.
Singing.
Okay, I did that. My very first time with ayahuasca and chacruna. And you can't just have ayahuasca. You've got to have the chacruna with the ayahuasca or you're not going to go anywhere with it. Okay. You've got to have the MAO inhibitor and you've got to have the DMT-containing plant. The DMT-containing plant is the chacruna, also known as Psychotria viridis, and the ayahuasca, Banisteropsis caapi. You've got to mix the two. You've got to boil them down, in a certain way, for like 12 hours. So that's what I did, and I didn't do any chanting. I didn't do any singing. I just laid down on a bed, and I had a babysitter in case I decided that I was going to fly. So that was what I did, and basically the grand vision that I received from that experience was, I felt the need to vomit, but I resisted that, and she didn't push it, and I saw a giant snake circling the earth. I saw it from an orbit of about maybe 500 miles, and so I saw this giant snake. Encircling the earth. And it was a Shakti snake. It wasn't like a reptilian type of scenario that a lot of people would jump on. But it was the Shakti snake. And, it was very, very profound. It was a very, very profound experience. And I'm glad I did it. But it was nothing at all like when I went down to Peru with you and with Rosemary and with Brooke and with other people. When we had the fresh stuff, I bought mine over the internet, and we had the fresh ayahuasca, and we had a fresh, copious levels of Psychotria viridis or chacruna, and we had music. And now Alonso Del Rio doesn't do a lot of the typical chanting of the of Native American. He does his own music, and so with that being said, he takes everything from Christian songs or and his own music that he writes, which is very profound, but he does take some of the jungle sounds that he won't let you record those at all. But one of them, he'll sound like an insect, and it'll sound kind of like this. It's going, and if you look at the pictures that I put on Kundalini Awakening ! Of a giant insect that lives in the jungles of the Mato Grosso, you can kind of get to understand that you would definitely hear sounds like that in these jungle areas, and certainly within the jungles of Peru. And he'd also, put in and boy, once you heard the bird or the insect, man, the ayahuasca really spiked. And so there's definitely you are, I would assume that you are a of age adult, and that you're listening to your Kundalini. You say that you're light workers. I get a little concerned when I hear a person say, "Oh, I'm a light worker," like I'm a starseed. And it tends I tend to see that into more of an ego-based type of understanding with Kundalini. Kundalini works in both darkness and with light, and it's not just one or the other. And darkness is not always bad, and light is not always good. So I look at that in your statement, questioner, and I just kind of go, maybe you would do better to try it with a person that is leading, that knows how to lead these. And I would definitely recommend Alonso Del Rio with that. And I'd also recommend, I don't know their last name, so I may as well not tell you, but they're the ones that I did the ayahuasca with in Oregon as well. Oh, Cole's writing. He may be able to supply that name. Well, yeah, Cole, but that last names, my friend, last names. Scott and Amy's not going to help anybody.
They have a website now, guys. Do you know it?
Yeah.
Cole?
Yeah, Cole's getting it. He's getting it right now. So I'll be more than happy to suggest them as well. Scott and Amy tend to do, their mixture just seems to make you do a lot of very, very deep work. Alonso's allows you to do very, very deep work too, but it's in a very different vein. And so I recommend both of them. Alonso's down in Ture, Peru, and Scott and Amy travel around the United States. And so, yeah, Scott Latham, that's Latham, and Amy Wharton, that's Wharton. And Scott Latham and Amy Wharton are very good at what they do. They do a lot of work with trees and the essence of trees. And they take their information from the old and elder trees of the jungle, but also of the North American continent. So there you have it with that. And that's about the answer to that question. Zara?
Okay, Chrism, thank you very much. The next question is about auras. I've noticed something new in my aura today. Around my head, the main color was an ultraviolet, but around that there seems to be a rainbow. I have never seen a rainbow in my aura before. It looks quite beautiful. I'm not sure if it means anything.
Does this person say they're K-active or awakened?
Yes, on the group.
Yeah, well, the activation sequence will, there's a portion of each chakra that represents, one chakra will represent levels of the rainbow, colors of the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. And when you look at your aura, the aura emanates from the seventh chakra, certainly within an awakened individual, and you'll see rainbow colors there. That's normal for Kundalini awakened people. Over.
Okay, And the next one is about crown chakra being opened, Chrism. Feeling cold, peaceful water falling in my top of the head. Lots of happiness and peace. Feels like I'm flying. Everything new is happening to me, but lots of questionings. Am I safe or ill? Please help.
You're safe.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So, the next question, Chrism. What effect does the Merkaba have on active Kundalini?
Merkaba doesn't really have anything to do with Kundalini. It's kind of a device set up and really promulgated by an individual that calls himself Thoth, one of the Egyptian gods. And it's a mechanism within that context used as an external point of vehicular travel through space and through the multi-dimensional qualities of existence. And it's just basically it's really nothing to be believed in. I mean, you know, let me back up a little bit. I mean, you can make a belief system out of grass growing. You can make a belief system out of, you know, putting deodorant in your underarm. You can make a belief system out of anything. And this person decided to make a belief system, you know, along with his Flower of Life program and all of that, is, you know, creating a Merkaba and then going inside of it and traveling around with it. You know, like an ascension vehicle, except he's going outside of the inner qualities of grace that have already been given to you by the divine natures within you. And so, you know, he's creating something that doesn't need to be created. He's creating a vehicle that doesn't do anything near as well as the Kundalini. But because we're always looking outside of ourselves for ascension formats, well, that's what people do. They, oh, wow, all I have to do is create this Merkaba with my mind and then step inside it and just off I go. No. But if that's what you want to do, you go right ahead. Go right ahead. I suggest you do a strong level of ego work first, though. Over.
Thank you, Chrism. Next question. I'm finding that Kundalini will cause me to let out a gentle sigh and not inhale for quite some time. While this is happening, I feel calm and I feel an internal smile and a guiding feeling of, that's it. Is this common?
Yeah, that's common. Definitely common.
Okay. Over. Okay, Chrism, thank you. The next question, and I know you've actually addressed this on the group, but I'm asking it. Chrism, can you explain the names and terms like Nadi, Siddhi, Chakra, and their relationship with each other, and the ultimate goal of the Sadak, who is trying to awaken the goddess Kundalini?
I want you to read my response to that guy.
Ah, okay. See, I take these away from the group so they're all together. So now I have to go over.
Read the response.
I have to go over to the group. I don't read this off the group.
What I told the guy is that's a lot of work. And I said, you do the work and you get back to me with what you find. You know, he seems to think that I have all the time in the world to just give him all these little descriptions that he wants that only dovetail with his own belief system, his Hindu-based belief system. And basically what I told him was that I don't agree with belief systems that tend to create the ideology that Kundalini awakens the same way in each person. I don't agree with that at all because it's unique to every individual. Yes, there will be some similarities, but for the most part, it's an individual thing because we have individual karma. And because we have individual karma, our equation of Kundalini activation or awakening is going to be unique. And the Sadak and how long a Sadak must be doing this and, you know, all these little phrases and words that he put into that really have nothing to do except with Hindu-based belief systems really don't really matter within the context of Kundalini. They only matter within the context of the belief system, which would be Hinduism in this case. Over.
Thank you, Chrism. The next question is about Lyme disease, and that it's mentioned in the group a lot. Is there a connection with Lyme disease and Kundalini, and could this be the reason why all my joints crack painfully and loudly all the time? Thank you.
Not necessarily. Kundalini can also cause a transformation within the synovial fluid aspects of the ball joint, of the shoulders, the elbows, the knees, the hips, the ankles, the wrists. And so, the synovial fluid is what makes things go very, very smooth within an individual. And so that doesn't necessarily mean that there's a Lyme disease connection there. Lyme disease does have a lot of resonance with Kundalini awakening symptoms. And so this is where people will think they're having Lyme disease when in fact they're having Kundalini. And I think the converse is also true. People will think they're having Kundalini when in fact they're having Lyme disease. But I think going at it from that tangent, thinking that they have Kundalini first and then Lyme disease second, would initiate a level of repair upon that Lyme disease. And so it would be a very, very strong, I would advise people to go to Kundalini because, frankly, right now there is no cure for Lyme disease at all. And Lyme disease initiates a level of an organism called a spirochete. And these spirochetes are the ones that are in the bloodstream and that begin to work in a negative way upon the tissues, the organs, and the human body in general. And the Kundalini doesn't have spirochetes. Kundalini has energy, but the energy itself permeates the body, which means that if you had Lyme disease and you awaken your Kundalini, well, the spirochetes themselves are going to be directly affected by your Kundalini. Let's see. And this can lead to a possible healing for that individual. Over.
Thank you, Chrism. Okay, so this person was in bed and they heard bees all over my room, but there were no bees. I just heard them. What does this mean?
Maybe you have bees inside the walls. They do that sometimes. They do. They do. I know. Here in Santa Rosa, I had a queen bee decide she's going to make her home in the attic, and then she forgot. She didn't tell all her people how to get out of the attic, and so they started coming out the heater and the windowsills and any orifice or spot of light that they could go. We literally had the horror movie of 40,000 bees flying around the inside of the house. Now, of course, from a Kundalini context, if you hear the buzzing of bees, that's one of the Kundalini symptoms. But she's not really, I don't know how many times she's heard it. Does she have other Kundalini phenomena? I like to see at least 3 to 5 different phenomena before I try to diagnose Kundalini for an individual. Hearing the buzzing of bees, let's make sure that your walls are free of the bees. Over.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Chrism. 2 or 3 times during meditation recently, I have felt pressure between the heart chakra and the throat chakra at the spine. It feels as if it sets itself on this area from outside. It is a very sudden feeling, or so it seems. It lasts for some time and then passes. And there's also a grasping. And the person asks, has anyone felt this? So I suppose they're asking, in the context of Kundalini.
Okay, so there's a couple of different scenarios that can cause that. And one of the scenarios is a releasing of aspects of the Granthi knot, and the Granthi knot that is part of that area of the body. Another thing, of course, can be an entity trying to assert its will upon the individual. Like she said, it comes from the outside, and so if it's coming from the outside and it's not developing from an internal context, well then that can be an entity trying to insert its will upon the upper heart chakra and the lower fifth. And this could be maybe a way for it to gain a voice. This could be part of a situation where it would be looking to dominate from a love-based level, and then gaining its voice into the fifth. I mean, there's a bunch of variations within that scenario that can occur. From the outside in is not always the best vector of approach, but it does happen sometimes with Kundalini that an outside-in scenario does develop. So with her, let's have a look here. Did she say if that was on the back or on the front?
She said on the spine, from the heart and throat chakra. Yeah.
I would say on the back then. That sounds more like entity involvement to me. So what I would do is I would ignore that completely, and say your prayers to Kundalini to keep that consciousness clear from you. Over.
So, Chrism, if something like that is happening and you're unsure, there are other symptoms or phenomena that's going on, and you're not processing whether it's an entity or if it's Kundalini, can you do something during your meditation that not protects you, but that puts you into a position where you are given to the Kundalini, that without having to decide if it's an entity or not?
Can you restate that?
I'm asking you if when you're meditating, as this person was, and you begin to feel something that may or may not be Kundalini, maybe an entity or maybe Kundalini, and rather than, wondering if it is or it isn't, can you do something that puts yourself into a position of only being for the Kundalini in that moment?
You can state that. You can say a mantra that is directed only to the Kundalini and nothing else. You can put your forefinger and your thumb tips together. You can put your tongue up. You can put your eyes up, and you say, "I only recognize the Kundalini radiance within me," or "I am all that the Kundalini within me wants me to be." You can begin to say a lot of different things that will really focus you just on the Kundalini rather than on anything else that might be trying to communicate with you. Over.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Chrism. The next question is it okay to practice Sahaja meditation?
Sahaja
is it compatible? Sorry.
Sahaja is a Sanskrit word that means natural, but the Sahaja people are basically those that worship Shri Mataji. And Shri Mataji is this woman that has a gunshot between her eyebrows. Looks like about a .45 caliber. That's the Bindu. I'm commenting on her Bindu. Huge Bindu. And to make it look like, well, I'm really activated. I've got this Bindu the size of a pie plate. And they give all their money to her, and they worship her, and they're really all about that level of giving to their leader. This is why I don't let the Sahajans in the group if I can help it. I say it right there in the group description, not a Sahaja group. They're very, very virulent in their desire to worship Sri Mataji as the coming of the Virgin Mary or Shakti or whatever else they like to compare her to. She's just a regular person, but she's just a very wealthy regular person because people have been giving her, their homes and their cars and their lives and all the things that we don't like to part with here in the West, but one of the problems I have with Sahaj is, they'll help a person get their Kundalini going, and then when that person is at a very, very, very delicate balance point within the Kundalini awakening, they really push forward a strong level of programming towards, Srimataji and all this stuff that puts them, kind of catapults them into an area of adoration and worship that may not be most conducive for their development. And so I tend to keep those out of my communities as much as possible. Over.
Thanks, Chrism. And the next question is, my understanding is that the most important thing is to surrender to one's Kundalini, the divinity within, not a teacher. Is my understanding correct?
Well, unless your Kundalini gives a teacher to you. A lot of people, they dream of a very specific teacher, and the Kundalini is saying, go to this guy, or go to this girl, or go there, go there, go there. Listen to what this person has to say. The Kundalini itself will do this because she wants you to hear it from that source. And so, yes, you definitely trust your Kundalini, but part of trusting that Kundalini is trusting the teachers that she sends you to, if she sends you to them. Over.
Thanks, Chrism. Okay. You're after going through those fairly quickly, actually. I'm just scrolling to see. I don't think I've got any more questions.
Well, good. I have to say that with all of the, here we go. iMagic Art says, Chrism, will the occurrence of synchronicities constitute Kundalini communication in regards to listening to a particular teacher? I guess it would depend on what those synchronicities were. David, can you outline those synchronicities? Just give me 2 or 3 examples. One of the examples that commonly occurs with me is that a person will dream of Chrism, and the Kundalini itself, over and over and over, will tell that person to go to that Chrism person, and eventually they do, or at least they try it out, and then they'll either agree with it or not. But the occurrence of synchronicities constitute Kundalini communication. Yeah, I guess it could. I mean, if you go to, say, a certain teacher and you see a rose there, or just a rose lying, or maybe a blue feather just floating down on the seat where you're supposed to sit, or, what kind of synchronicity are they phenomena-based synchronicities? Are they synchronicities? Here we go. And Atlanta Seeker says, I had a dream about you this week, Chrism. Oh my gosh, was I on an airplane in a fetal position, wondering if I could go to the bathroom? Thank you, Atlanta Seeker. Thank you. So iMagic Art, can you tell me what kind of synchronicities you're talking about? Oh,
Chrism, Magic Art is here.
I'm going to put you in the blue, okay?
Yep.
Hey, David.
Hey, Chrism.
It's David, right? I get confused when
I
see. Yeah, okay. So tell me about these synchronicities.
Well, a few weeks ago, I was listening in the chat room on my laptop, and as you were speaking, I noticed an ad on the bottom right corner, and the ad was displaying what you were speaking about, which was very bizarre. The ad had really nothing to do with what you were saying, but the visuals on the ad, I don't remember the topic, but it coincided exactly with what you were talking about, to the point where I even had to click on it. And it went to a site. No, but it went to a site, an ad for a company that was completely not relevant to Kundalini and what you were talking about, and it happened again.
Same thing.
On the ad of the website had a flash demonstration of something that clicked again with what you were talking about. It was very bizarre. It kept happening 3 or 4 times.
Well, I think that that you, David, you've already kind of received a level of information. I think that that your Kundalini is propelling you to hear some of these words, right?
Yeah, if I'm ever in doubt, it just occurs again. I drive a lot on the road, and even billboards and signs will coincide if I'm listening in the archives.
Right. And so, yeah, I would see those as relevant synchronicities. Given I don't know or remember what I was talking about with regards to that, can you remember anything about it?
Not specifically. I remember you were talking about something in dealing with energy and a flaming ball, and it was just really bizarre. The ad was a flaming.
The circulation
yeah.
Go ahead. And the ad was what?
A flaming pool ball with a number on it. Exactly when you were saying it, that looked like a planetary or galactic vision on this ad. I just had to click on it. And then you made a joke. There was various ones, but the 8 ball showed up. It was a flaming 8. I was like, wow.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah. It did. Let me ask you this, David. Did it strike you on a personal level of synchronicity with what I was saying? I think it did. Then that was a direct communication from your Kundalini to you, using symbols rather than words, or symbols and words. If I was talking and I cracked a joke and the 8 ball did something, then yeah, it would be, you'd be getting 2 different kinds of information at the same time that were harmonious with each other in a way.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I mean, it definitely this can occur. I mean, and I don't care if it's me as a teacher or somebody else. If you're listening to Osho on watching a YouTube of Osho or something like that, and let's just say Osho is talking about speaking to animals, and all of a sudden you get a pop-up that shows a person talking to a kitty cat or a bird. Well, then you can kind of make the bridge within the topic of Osho's conversation or the topic of the pop-up. You can make that bridge. Random, ads are typically random to some degree. If we have cookies, and with the Osho information, maybe it would be titled "Talking to Animals," and then the cookie would direct a specific advertising that would be targeted to you for talking about cookies or talking about animals, right? Animal communication. So I don't know that. Let's see. So this site here says, what is it? I guess it's Kundalini Conversations with Chrism, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
But they don't know what I'm talking about. See, that's the thing with live. This is a live program. And that is that's the difference between looking at something that's already, visited by spiders and all of these types of things. That's the difference, because the spiders right now don't have any clue about what I'm talking about at all. So with that past show, and as you were listening to that past show, I would definitely connect that more to the Kundalini than anything else.
Yeah, for sure. I'm seeing an ad right now. Someone was, they're just taking pictures of food. It just wasn't relevant to anything on the screen.
Wow. Exactly.
But I know earlier in my activation process, I had a lot of synchronicities, a lot of speaking and teachings from random people that suddenly addressed me with something very profound that I just disregarded as, like a fortune cookie logic, not intuition. And I ignored it for many years until finally started opening up to it.
Yeah. I mean, you're definitely inside of a blessing, David. You're definitely inside of a blessing, and the more you open to it, the more you really begin to respond to it within your physical, expressive dimension, the stronger these teachings are going to come for you. And, you don't need to worry about your family or anything like that, or even your job. I mean, she knows what you do. And she knows who your family is, and she knows these dynamics. I know it sounds a lot like Santa Claus, and he knows what you were thinking and things like that.
Yeah.
But she does indeed, because she's within you. The Kundalini is within you, and it's that divine consciousness within you. So it knows your particulars, and it knows your dynamics. And just start really paying attention. I love the fact that you're asking about synchronicities, because synchronicities are often a doorway into expanded levels of teachings from the Kundalini. I had them all the time. All of a sudden, I would stop. I'd be walking in a gravel on top of a levee somewhere in the United States, and I would just stop, and I was told to pick up a certain stone, and I would turn the stone, and in the agate of the stone, I still have this stone too. Inside of the swirls on the red and dark red agate, I could see a man with a beard with his hands outstretched wearing robes. And I was told that's how I would be.
Wow.
And another time, I was walking along the banks of the Sacramento River in Northern California, and I stared at there's like thousands of these round river stones, that they placed on the levees to kind of secure the levee. And I stared at this one. I have no idea. It wasn't me. But all of a sudden, I was just staring at this one normal-looking river stone, about, 10 inches long and about probably 10 inches wide as well. It's gray. And I was compelled to pick it up and turn it over. And when I picked it up and turned it over, there was yellow paint on it that showed a person kneeling and kind of like praying to the sun. And I thought, wow, that is so what I was into at the time. So, yeah. Is that a synchronicity, or would that be just like a psychic development? I don't know. But intuition can really bring you into levels of comprehension with what the Kundalini is showing you. And the very fact that you spoke up about these synchronicities with you is a very, very clear indication that you are getting greater and greater levels of communication and input from your Kundalini to you. So I just want to say congratulations for that.
Yeah, thanks. What I love about synchronicity is it's one of those intuitions and levels of learning and download that you don't control. There's no ego involved. The more you surrender and open to it, the more you get anywhere you look if you're open to it.
There you go. That's right. Like, I had no idea that these rocks would show these things. I just was compelled to look at them. And then when I picked them up, the configuration of the agate, I mean, I could show you the agate, David, and you'd be going, where is it? I don't see it. It's only for me, it's just for me. And I could draw, I could take an up-close photograph and everybody would see it, but you'd have to really, it'd have to be detailed. And, yeah, it's just amazing. Yeah. The synchronicities that we get are basically are non-linear communications. Non-linear communications from the Kundalini.
I had another a quick question after someone's been Kundalini awakened, and you have dreams of serpents, not like a big serpent or a giant serpent, but say walking in streets where 3 or 4 feet piled high is just serpents all over the place.
That would be Kundalini. You bet. That would happen to me in my bedroom. I'd all of a sudden wake up in a lucid type of scenario inside the bedroom, and I would have snakes all over the floor, all different colors. They weren't going to be like 14 feet tall or anything like that. They were just, there's just all kinds of different snakes all over the place. And yeah, definitely Kundalini experience there, my friend. Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, physically, if a snake crosses my path, I would probably be afraid of it, but for some reason, walking lucidly in this dream, I was not afraid walking through streets filled with serpents.
So eventually you won't have that fear of snakes. I mean, I remember my friend almost stepped on a Pacific Coast rattlesnake as we were walking down Vernal Falls in Yosemite, and I saw the snake first. Beautiful snake, by the way, very pretty. And I put my hand on his chest and held him back before he stepped on it. And the snake just, it's just going on its own way. It didn't have any interest in us at all. But if he had stepped on it, he would have been bit for sure. And snakes are just really, really cool people. And just lately, I was walking with Brooke. I was walking the dogs over on a place called Willowside Creek, and this kind of a long, like a 4-foot serpent was lying in the grass on the side of the road, and it had kind of like a diamond thing, but it diamonds on its body, but it didn't have the arrowhead shaped head, and so I knew it wasn't a viper, but I was very curious, and what it was one of the rare examples of a California king snake. Very, very good for the environment, and very friendly and very intelligent serpent. And I just thought, God, how lucky is that? How lucky am I to be able to see one of these things up close and personal? I took pictures of it, and it didn't move. I had my iPhone with me, so. Yeah. And spiders are the same way. I've had students come over here when I was in an ashram, and I was running the ashram. I'd have students come over, and they would see a spider lowering itself onto them the size of a Volkswagen. And they would be able to see the individual hairs and things like that. Well, that kind of translates over into seeing spiders wherever you go. Wherever you go, you start seeing spiders. You start respecting them and not being so afraid of them and not killing them, that type of thing. Same thing with the snakes.
Yeah, we have some spider issues here. I live in New Mexico, and when it's warmer, we get spiders crawling out all over the place. My family gets me to pick them up gently and to get them outside.
That's right. Do you get the tarantulas over there?
We've seen 3 tarantulas, a couple of black widows, brown recluse, and then some of the other types of spiders that are harmless.
Oh, you have brown recluse in New Mexico. That's not good. But even the brown recluse, they're not out there to kill you. They're not like hunting humans, right? They're just trying to live. That's all. Yeah. So, just trying to live.
It's hard if you come across them by mistake. They can be pretty scary. But.
Oh yeah. Just don't put your hands in dark areas.
Yeah.
It's the same advice that you get in Arizona. Don't put your hands in bushes that you can't see all the way through, because there's that coral snake just waiting. It's the same thing with the generally. Mm-hmm. You guys have the Gila monsters out there?
I haven't seen any here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's definitely in Arizona, the southern Arizona type of creature. Really nice. But very, very,
well, thank you, Chrism. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome, David, and nice to have you call in. Thank you. And I'll put you in the blue. And Brent D says, "Hi, Chrism. Just wanted to thank you for sharing the power of prayer in a previous show. It's incredibly powerful. Much love." Absolutely, Brent. That is the only way to pray. The only way to pray, and I will say it here once again. If you have a person that is ill, if you have a person that needs a healing, or if you yourself need a healing, whether it's finances or whether it's love interests or whatever it may be, you do the power of prayer. That will work. That will work. Now, Amakua is the Polynesian term for Kundalini, and it is a very, very, very intricate and yet effective system of praying with results. You get results with the power of prayer. So you're very welcome, Brent D., and thank you for mentioning that here. Cole Kundalini asks, "Chrism, is this harp thing a thing?" Well, there's 2 different kind of harp things, coal. One is something to do with real estate, and the other is the high altitude or oral type of thing. And I'll have to say that both of them are a real thing. Yes, it is valid, and it's a weapon that uses Tesla information to create a huge footprint of potential destructive power over an entire city or something of that nature. They're not using it in a way that is productive towards humanity. They're using it as a way of defense-related equipment and technologies. And any other questions out of the group? I see Andrew Lucariello is talking. And what about chemtrails? Chemtrails is another DARPA project where they're trying to control levels of weather, trying to control the weather in certain ways. But they're also dumping toxins on the populations, things that are not helping people, but are kind of actively hurting people. And they've been doing that for a few years now. The chemtrails are not a pretty thing. And it's another example of challenged ethics becoming an expressive format that is being inflicted upon populations. We do not need, and this world does not require, chemtrails. Yeah. And while people are typing here, I'm going to come on over to Rosemary here. Hello, Miss Rosemary. How are you?
I'm good. And you?
Good. And tell me how your practice is going.
Well, I'm doing my regular humble. When you say you're humble, that doesn't quite work. But simple practices I have before. And when I was reading, when you were away and thinking about you and praying for you too, and Vince, that was me where I am looking towards or looking at something that I have not participated in. But
I think you would really enjoy. I think you would enjoy Abidjania. I don't think you'd enjoy the air flight down there, but you'd enjoy Abidjania. It's very Catholic, so you'd be familiar with a lot of things. Like, a lot of the things there. Very Christian oriented, and yet it's Christian with a supernatural flavor to it.
Which is missing.
I have to say, I'm not very interested in mediumistic practices. However, I have to say, of the John of God people down there, the entities are fairly benign. They don't go out of their way to hurt anybody. I like that.
Well, what you described of the Christianity, it's that mysticism that I find people saying to me that they miss and would like. They're people who know my practice and what I do, and that they're looking for that in the traditional, in the mainstream Christian church. And something you said earlier about looking outside themselves. It is so common, even with so-called alternative magazines or articles. It's a lot of people working hard next out there, and I get very sad when I see that, and people don't have the information, even just beginning information. Because when I started a few years ago, I wasn't coming from understanding. I was just being drawn, and I followed that. But that mysticism is missing, and the fact that people are interested in looking at the stars, that's really beautiful.
Yes, it is indeed, and it's good for you to recognize that, and if you run into those people, swing them our way. as best you can. If you can build a bridge between whatever belief system you're talking about and what we do, and you have the skill set to do that, Rosemary. So thank you. Thank you for all you do for the KAS1 community. And I'm going to put you in the blue here. Thank you for the update. And I'm going to read what Brent asks. Says, Chrism, can you talk about Hatha Yoga and asana practice and the Kundalini? Well, Hatha Yoga is a style of yoga like Kundalini Yoga or Bhakti Yoga or, any of these yogas. Hatha Yoga happens to do with positions of the body and breathing, which is positions of the body is what in Sanskrit is called an asana. So basically he's saying, can you talk about Hatha Yoga and the positions of the body practice and the Kundalini? And Hatha Yoga will not activate the Kundalini. But if you do have the activated Kundalini or awakened Kundalini, and the Kundalini is starting to put you into Kriyas, you will find that they follow very, very much along the lines of Hatha Yoga. And it's not because Hatha Yoga is just somehow magically tying into your Kundalini. It's because the people that developed the various yogas, Patanjali for one, codified what positions a person would go into that had activated Kundalini and turned that into a mundane practice for the masses, with the promise that, oh gosh, if you do yoga, then, well, your Kundalini could be activated. Kundalini Yoga does the same exact thing, just with a different name. Okay, so there we have that. And iMagic Art says, and if breath of fire can lead to an awakening, it can, but it will not be a pleasant one, typically. You're welcome, Brent. David, it will not be a pleasant one. You'll feel like you're burning a lot of the time. Breath of fire can be extremely dangerous. And of course, all these yoga studios, have you do breath of fire right at the end of the thing. I don't know what occurred to have them start doing that. It wasn't that way all the time. But now they're doing this breath of fire right at the end. It's just like, oh, yes, well, after you do the yoga practice, we just like to get you ready to face the world and have a positive energetic thing. So we have you do the breath of fire for that. And it's like, oh, geez. What happens when somebody activates their Kundalini that way? Not a pretty picture. Not a pretty picture. And iMagic Art continues. He says, any purpose of breath of fire after and awakening? The Kundalini may compel you to do some breath of fire. But see, that's within the Kundalini. When the Kundalini tells you to do the breath of fire, you can pretty much trust that you need to do it for whatever reason. She's indicating that you do it. So, yeah, that's after the awakening, breath of fire is not something that you would induce on your own, but something that the Kundalini within you would induce upon you. And that makes the big difference. And Rachel says, because Western yoga teachers don't know. And she says, I know, I was one. Well, Rachel, you're an activated woman now, so you know what you didn't know then. So there you have it. And Rachel continues, she says, I feel like yoga helped prepare my body for Kundalini. Well, I think it could, especially if you're a teacher. That means you're doing it every day. I don't know if you've had the Kriya phenomena yet, or if you've had it at all, but it could help plow the road, so to speak, plow the road for a person. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go over here to Amelia. And Amelia, hello. Emerald Isle woman.
Huh.
Celtic,
hello, Chrism.
Questionable concept. I just want to say once again thank you to you and Brooke for handling the show last week, and I apologize to everybody for not being able to bring the Abhijnana through the radio show to everyone here. But I appreciate you and Brooke doing that yeoman's work there. Very, very much appreciative and grateful for that. And I look forward to next week. I will be here. I have to say I have a bit of a headache and I feel like I have dysentery to some degree. So I may need to make a deposit pretty quick. A financial
Let's go
deposit.
then. Let's go.
I swear to God, I think it comes from sitting in that one position. It messes with the peristaltic of the you know, and I literally was doing that for like 21 hours. So so anyway, I have a headache. I haven't quite recovered yet. Didn't sleep at all last night. Had really strong vibes that had more to do with the travel effects than anything else. And so I'm just going to go ahead and end the show about 15 minutes early. And I appreciate everybody tuning in. And Andrew says, "I'll take care of Chrism." Well, I will. Indeed. I'm going to try to anyway. And I just want to I say appreciation to Andrew in Atlanta, Secret Brent D, Katie Paulson, Manisha, Mary Jean, and Michelle Ranger, Phil Karuba, Rachel Burnett, Cole Kundalini, and David I. Magicart. And I thank you all for tuning into the chat group and asking those excellent questions that people were asking in the chat group. And I'd like to say thank you to the people that called in, and thank you to you, Santara, for hosting this program. And I just want to say a great deal of thanks to you, Santara. This is your baby. This program is here because of you. And we are all able to partake of this because of you. And I just want to give you my gratitude. And I want to say that to everybody here listening. Thank you, Santara.
You're welcome, Chrism. Thank you.
All right. Any last words, my dear?
No. See everybody next week. That's it.
See everybody next week. And thank you, everybody. And I'll go ahead and end it like I started it. And here we go.